Hey guys, Sean here and welcome to the F1 Word. Now earlier this week, Christian Horner said that a seat with the main Red Bull team for next season was Alex Albon's to lose. Of course, Helmut Marko had previously revealed that Daniel Kvyat will be staying with the Toro Rosso team for next year, with Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon battling it out to be Max Verstappen's teammate. It now looks though, provided he doesn't of course throw it away, that Albon is the favourite. In fact, he may even already have it. So I thought I'd have a quick look at what Alex has done since he was bumped up to Red Bull and give my thoughts on whether or not I feel he's done enough to keep that seat. First off, from the outside, he seems to have had a really strong start to life at Red Bull, and the stats certainly back that up. Albon has started 5 races with the team and has scored a total of 48 points, with 6th place being his worst finish and 4th being his best. He has also outscored teammate Max Verstappen, with the Dutchman picking up just 31 points, although Max has had his fair share of bad luck and incidents along the way, but still a pretty impressive achievement given that he was rushed into that seat over the summer break. In comparison, Gasly's first 5 races with Red Bull were very different. He picked up a total of just 20 points, and if I'm being generous and remove the DNF in Baku that wasn't his fault, and say count Monaco as his 5th completed race, that total does bump up to 30, but that is still 18 down on Albon. And actually, even if you look at the last 5 races with the team when he did appear to be improving, he still couldn't match what Albon has been doing now, and only picked up 27 points. So if this decision really is between Albon and Gasly, it is hard to see, based on the stats at least, how Pierre will get a look in. I will say actually on Gasly just very quickly, he seems much happier at Toro Rosso, doesn't he? Or at least more relaxed since returning to that team, so perhaps it was just a case that the pressure that came with the Red Bull drive was a little bit too much for him. It's not just all about numbers though. Albon has looked so much better in that car than Gasly did, and he almost looks to grips with it, if that makes sense. But also he's doing things Pierre wasn't, and I'm not just talking about this consistent point scoring. It is more than that. He's shown twice already that he is more than capable of recovering when he's out of position post-qualifying. In Russia, he made his way from the pit lane to finish in 5th place, only, in air quotes, 24 seconds behind his teammate, although the safety car did help him out a little bit there, let's be honest. And in Belgium, his first race with the team, when everybody was ready to cut him a little bit of slack if he didn't deliver immediately, he started 17th and again finished 5th. When you imagine the pressure that he must have been under that weekend, that is seriously impressive. He's just willing to go for moves as well. Alright, his pass on Norris was a little bit out of order in Japan, he did basically pretty much shove him off the track, but some of his late breaking moves at Spa and Monza in particular were properly good, and he was super aggressive in Sochi too. That is exactly what Red Bull want from their drivers, hard but fair racing for the most part, and Gasly wasn't doing enough of that, if any of that. I've said this a million times on this channel, slight exaggeration, but you get my point. I do really like Pierre, but based on Albon's first 5 races with Red Bull, I find it really hard to disagree with Marko's decision to swap them. Obviously, there are still 4 races to go this season, and if Albon crashes out of all of those, suddenly what he achieved in his first 5 becomes a distant memory and almost, I suppose, irrelevant. Having just said that though, it isn't actually going to come down to the last 4 races. If, and that's a big if, we are to take Helmut Marko at face value, as I've said many times before, that isn't easy to do based on his past form. But if we do, then the decision will be taken in his words, well, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but basically he said that they would make a call on both of their lineups somewhere around the US Grand Prix. In fact, funnily enough, as I sit here recording this, an article has just come out reporting that Toro Rosso will announce their 2020 driver lineup after the Mexican Grand Prix, and that Franz Tost has said he'd be happy retaining Kvyat and Gasly. I'll read you part of his quote quickly. "We'll see what Red Bull decides for next year. Both are very fast and we are very satisfied with their work. Personally, I hope that Daniel and Pierre will continue with us in 2020. The choice should be announced at the end of October after the Mexican Grand Prix." So I would assume that we will hear something about the Red Bull seat around the same time. Perhaps it will be after Austin, as Marko had previously said. But let's be really honest about this. Once we know the Toro Rosso lineup, we'll probably be able to get our heads together and crack which way Red Bull are going to go with theirs. One announcement is very much going to dictate another announcement, as is often the case with Red Bull, of course. But anyway, the point I was making was, even if Alex struggles in Mexico and the US, would that have been enough for Marko to change his mind? But that question seems pretty irrelevant now, as it looks highly likely that Albon will be partnering Verstappen next year. And looking at those stats from earlier and my personal view on how he's performed, I think that would be the right call. Of course, there are other options available to Red Bull, such as Nico Hülkenberg, for example. That's a name that won't go away, but although I'm sure Nico would jump at the chance, I cannot see the team putting him in that second seat. Also, just because Marco has said that Kvyat will be at Toro Rosso next season, it doesn't necessarily mean that he is totally out of contention. I mean, the noises coming from Kvyat himself seem to back up what has been said. However, back in August, I made a video talking about how Marco had said that Pierre Gasly was safe. And 2 days later, I was making another video about Pierre being dropped and Albon getting promoted. So yeah, you just never really know with Helmut Marko. To summarise though, I can't seem to come up with any real reason why Alex Albon shouldn't get that seat for next season. He is delivering better results in his first 5 races with the team than Gasly was. Although, I suppose it should also be said at this point that the Red Bull is a better car now than it was at the start of the season, so perhaps that will make up some of the difference. But that car was improving mid-season and Gasly still seemed to struggle at times. As I said earlier, he picked up 27 points from his last 5 races with the team, compared to Albon's 48 in his first 5. And by the way, I don't deny that Pierre improved as the season went on, and he was starting to grab those 6th place finishes, or the equivalent, that I and many others have always maintained was the minimum target at every race. And you know what? Had the team backed him to the end of the season, maybe he would have improved further. That's something, though, that we will never know. Anyway, Albon has been much better than I expected him to be. I can't deny that. I was very sceptical when he got that promotion, thought it was way too soon for him. And with things like the stats, his performances, his willingness and ability to get moves done, and crucially pick up the pieces when Verstappen is having an off weekend, plus the lack of alternative options for the team, with all that in mind, my guess is that we will see Max Verstappen partnered by Alex Albon in 2020, with Daniel Kvyat and Pierre Gasly staying with Toro Rosso for another year. Now, whether or not those 3 drivers see out the season in the seats that they start the season in is something that will remain to be seen, but that is probably a conversation for another video. That is it though for this video, but as ever, there is a poll at the top right of the screen for you to have your say on. So, if you were in Red Bull's position, which driver would you put alongside Verstappen for next season? Albon, Gasly, Kvyat, Hülkenberg, or somebody totally different? And don't forget that you can let me know your thoughts on Red Bull's game of musical chairs down in the comment section. Now, I will be back soon with more content as ever, but in the meantime, don't forget that you can of course follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.